The Spider, the Girl, and a Case of the Blues. In early 1999, my sister and I moved into a very nice duplex. This place was modern, good to look at, and well kept. This is also the place where I have experienced some of the most bizarre and unconventional spooky events of my life. Beneath the staircase was a little storage room which I had converted into my little own computer room. I spent most of my nights there, playing games, surfing the net, or doing some office work from home. At times though, when things got unearthly quiet in the wee hours of the morning, I would feel that I wasn't alone in that small, cramped room. This feeling escalated a bit after a rather unnerving encounter. As per usual, I was sitting at my computer when I saw a long, hairy leg come across the top of my monitor. A white, hairy spider the size of my palm was slowly making its way over my monitor. Usually, I am not too bothered by spiders. In fact, I actually like them quite a lot. But this one made me scoot my chair back against the wall behind me. It looked rather menacing and none too friendly. I sat there staring at the spider for a few seconds when it suddenly disappeared halfway through its trek down my monitor. It didn't fall or jump, it just wasn't there anymore. I sat there for a few seconds, trying to rationalize what I just seen, but quickly decided that I would finish my work in the morning, and to hell with the spook spiders. Another common event in the duplex was a girl we used to see come down the stairs late at night. We would usually catch a glimpse of her while sitting around the table in the living room, or when we were watching TV or listening to music on my sister's stereo. She would casually walk down the stairs wearing blue jeans, boots, and a blue tank top. Then, before she would reach the bottom of the staircase, she would vanish. For a long time, we were not too bothered by her, since she seemed to be residual in nature, a recording of a previous tenant simply walking down the staircase. We changed our theory one late night while my friend and I were watching movies at my house. At around 1 a.m., we had just finished watching a DVD and were ready to go on to the next one when I got up to get us some coffee. As I turned around, I came face to face with our stairs girl, looking extremely angry. She was shouting and gesturing, a look of pure rage on her face, but we couldn't hear a thing. I took a few steps back, and she lunged forwards in the direction of my friend, then vanished, as she usually did on the staircase. We never saw her again after that encounter. As this event piqued our interest, I asked around the complex to try and find the identity of our stair girl. The only possibility we could latch onto is from what we heard from the caretaker, who had lived in the complex since it first accepted tenants. Apparently, the original owners of our unit had a very rebellious daughter in her late teens who had a thing for wild parties. One night, after one of these parties, she caught a lift home with a group of rather intoxicated friends. The car they were traveling in left the road and rolled, flinging her away from the wreckage. The friend survived, but she was declared dead at the scene. From the description given by the caretaker, we feel that it was her on the staircase. It was also in this duplex that I had one of the most wonderful experiences of my life. I had been out with my girlfriend of 2.5 years to celebrate my birthday when she simply told me that she had been seeing someone else for nearly 3 months. We broke off the relationship right then and there. I had come home feeling extremely dejected and emotional. I didn't even bother going up to my bed. I simply flopped down onto the couch and fell asleep almost immediately. Early the next morning, at about 5:30, I was woken up by a slight nuzzling of my cheek by a rather cold, wet nose. I opened my eyes to stare at the most beautiful husky I had ever seen in my life. It had a glistening coat and extremely beautiful ice blue eyes. It nuzzled my cheek a few times, then gave the side of my face a big lick. It then turned towards the hallway which led to the back door. It turned to me once, gave me a small huff, then disappeared down the hall. I got up to follow it, but as I entered the hallway, I noticed that the back door was still locked and bolted, and the husky was nowhere to be seen. It had, however, managed to cheer me up considerably just by its mere presence. The final event is probably the most bizarre I have ever had. It was late in 2003, about 4 months before I moved into my own place, when the following strangeness occurred. I had been up rather late, doing some 3D modeling, and was really tired when I eventually got to bed. I fell asleep not long after my head hit the pillow. I woke up in the early hours of the morning to find my bedroom door standing wide open. I found it a bit strange, since I never went to bed with an open door. Thinking that I had just been too exhausted to bother closing the door, I laid there for a few minutes, contemplating whether I should get up or not. I eventually prepared myself to get up and close it, but as I was about to throw off the covers to get up, I saw a movement coming from the bathroom door next to my room. A naked young woman emerged from the bathroom, walking towards the spare bedroom, the light outside our bathroom window illuminating her back. What was rather strange about her was that she had blue skin. It was as if she was covered from head to toe in some form of luminous blue body paint. I must have shifted slightly on my bed because she stopped and looked towards me, a look of surprise on her face. We stared at each other for a few uncomfortable seconds. Then she smiled, put her index finger to her lips, and said, "Shh." She flashed me another smile, then carried on walking until she was out of my field of vision. I was sitting up in my bed, dumbstruck for several seconds, then got up and walked out towards the spare bedroom. Of course, there was no one to be found. My sister was snoring away in the room next door, and I checked the downstairs doors to find them securely locked and bolted. I eventually went back up to my room, closed my door, and shaking my head, settled down back into my bed to continue my sleep. During this event, I never felt any sense of fear or dread, just an acute curiosity. To this day, I still wonder what she was all about. Our tiny haunted apartment. In our little 2-bedroom apartment, in 2007, we had 4 kids and ourselves. It wasn't what you would call spacious or cozy in the least, but we made do with what little we had. When we first moved in, the feel to it was stuffy, not because of the size, but it felt crowded. I felt as though there were people all around me the minute I stepped through the door. One morning, I had started my usual routine, cooking breakfast, cleaning all rooms, you know how it goes. Then, get the kids ready for the day. I was in the middle of washing dishes, and my 3 boys were down the hallway, playing in their room, and my daughter was sitting in the kitchen with me. I hadn't been able to get to the living room just yet when I heard my belt being moved across the carpeted floor. Thinking it was one of my boys, I walk into the living room, and I could still clearly hear them all still in their room playing. They knew the rules: stay and play in the room until I finished the front part of the apartment. I looked down, and the belt had literally been taken off of the door and placed in front of the kitchen walkway. I pick it up and put it back. I go back and finish the dishes when I hear my youngest son in my room talking. I slowly walk up to the door. It's cracked open a bit, so I look through. I see my son turns towards the corner sitting Indian style, literally having a conversation with no one. He responds, "No, I can't do that. Mom will get mad." He then shakes his head and looks up. It truly looks like he's in a conversation with something I can't see. I get a little freaked out, but stay calm and call out his name. He didn't respond in any way. He sat there as though he was listening to this invisible thing, looking up and nodding. So I call out his name once more. This time, he shakes his head and turns to me. He says, "Huh? Mama?" I asked him, "Who were you talking to?" He tells me he doesn't know his name, but he told him to go to the bathroom and take the candy out of the cabinet and eat them. I immediately grew scared and angry at the same time, as those were aspirin for my migraines, and my son was only 3. I asked him, has he seen this thing before? He told me no. I grabbed him and told him to stay next to me for the remainder of the day. A couple of days later, as I was preparing my kids for daycare in the morning, I went to grab my ID in order to cash my paycheck. I always left it on the top shelf in my kitchen along with my purse, wallet, and other things. I reach up and I can't feel it. I climb up on the cabinet and it's not there. My children at that time were all toddlers and couldn't climb up as they were all short. I search around, tear the place apart, and I never found it. We didn't have much in there to begin with, just the essentials. Our entire 6 months there, I couldn't sleep in my room due to the bed always vibrating and hearing whispers from the same corner my son had been talking to that thing in. 2 nights before we moved out, we all had our belongings packed and ready to go. The only things left were the kids' toys and our blankets left out. We had just settled down, kids asleep, and my husband and I relaxing watching TV, when we heard one of the kids' toys playing music. I get up and check on this toy. The button was on the off switch, so I think it's a short and take the batteries out. I head back to the living room. The minute I lay my head down, that same toy chimed in along with another toy. 2 at this point going off. We both sit up and look at each other. We both agreed this spirit didn't really like that we were leaving. I got up, went into the room, and the 2 toys stop immediately. I pick both up and throw them in the dumpster. I lay back down, a bit freaked, and that's when all their toys start up, louder than I had ever heard them. I run into the room and I literally see all the toys moving around the room as though something was playing with them. I ran out down the hall and told my husband to go check it out. He was terrified, but he sucked that up and walked to the room. He stood there in shock. He yelled, "It's time to throw all these out." I yelled back, "It's not the toys, it's the spirit you say doesn't exist." That night was restless, as was the next night. My children, after a couple of months into the lease, refused to sleep in their room. They would tell me it felt like someone was pinching them while they laid in bed, and they could bear not to deal with it because they could hear someone always whispering into their ears. So they would either sleep in that living room or in bed with us.